Hey folks, and welcome back to Amal Safety, where we believe a safe job is a good job, and the only dumb question is the one you don't ask. We're all about empowering folks like you with the knowledge and skills you need to make your workplaces safer, which is why we're diving deep into the trenches of HSE training. Let's face it, safety isn't glamorous, it's not always pretty, but it's the bedrock, the foundation of every successful operation. And that's where our main topic for today comes in, the roles and responsibilities of a health and safety officer. These are the folks on the front lines, the ones who keep the gears turning without grinding any bones. So buckle up, because we're about to break down this crucial job, step by gritty step. We'll dig into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to be a safety superhero, from policy writing, yeah, it's a thing, to emergency response, and everything in between. Now, I know what you're thinking, safety policies? Sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry, right? But hold your horses. Just like a good set of blueprints keeps a building from falling down, well-crafted safety policies are the backbone of a secure work environment. We're talking about the rules of the road, the do's and don'ts that keep everyone on the same page, and more importantly, in one piece. First things first, developing these policies isn't about some guy in a suit sitting in an ivory tower, dreaming up rules. It's about identifying the potential hazards specific to your workplace. Every job site has its quirks, its own brand of fun. So you gotta ask yourself, what are the riskiest tasks? Where are the potential danger zones? Once you've got a handle on that, you can start crafting policies that directly address those issues. And it ain't a one-and-done deal, folks. The workplace is constantly evolving, which means your safety policies need to keep pace. New equipment, new regulations, new challenges, all of these things can impact safety, and your policies need to reflect that. Regular reviews and updates are crucial to make sure your safety net is always up to code. But here's the thing about policies. They're just words on paper if nobody knows about them. That's why communication is key. You gotta make sure every single worker, from the greenest rookie to the seasoned veteran, understands the policies, why they're in place, and how to follow them. Remember those potential hazards we talked about? Well, now it's time to put on our detective hats and do some serious sleuthing. Risk assessment is all about identifying potential workplace hazards before they bite you in the, well, you know, it's about being proactive, not reactive. Think of it like this. You wouldn't walk into a dark, unfamiliar room without turning on the light first, would you? Same goes for the workplace. You gotta shine a light on those potential dangers, figure out what could go wrong and how likely it is to actually happen. That's what risk assessment is all about. There are a bunch of different ways to assess risk, but it often boils down to three basic questions. What can go wrong? How bad could it be? And how likely is it to happen? By systematically analyzing each task and process, you can start to prioritize the risks and figure out where to focus your safety efforts. Now, this ain't a solo mission. To do it right, you need input from the folks on the ground, the ones who are elbow deep in the work every day. They know the ins and outs of their jobs, the shortcuts, the workarounds, and they're a gold mine of information when it comes to identifying potential hazards. Remember, risk assessment ain't about eliminating every single risk. That's about as likely as finding a needle in a haystack blindfolded. It's about being aware of the risks, evaluating their potential impact, and taking steps to minimize the likelihood of them turning into a real problem. All right, so you've got your policies in place and you've identified the risks. Now it's time to arm your workforce with the knowledge and skills they need to stay safe. That's where training and education come in. Think of it like this. You wouldn't hand someone a chainsaw without showing them how to use it safely, right? The same goes for any job, really. Every task, every piece of equipment comes with its own set of risks and safety procedures. Training is about giving workers the tools they need to do their jobs safely and effectively. But here's the thing. Training isn't a one-size-fits-all deal. You gotta tailor it to the specific needs of your workforce and the hazards they face on the job. A desk jockey needs different training than a construction worker, right? So take the time to assess the skills and knowledge your workers need, and then develop a training program that hits those key areas. And don't just lecture at them, folks. Make it interactive, engaging, even a little fun. Use real-life examples, hands-on demonstrations, and maybe even a little humor to get the message across. Remember, the goal is to make sure the information sticks, not put them to sleep. Safety training isn't a chore, it's an investment in your people, in your workplace, and in the success of your operation. You know the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure? Well, nowhere is that truer than in workplace safety. That's where inspections and audits come in. They're all about catching those little problems before they turn into big headaches. Inspections are like the regular checkups you get from your doctor. They're about taking a proactive approach to identifying potential hazards, unsafe conditions, and work practices that might be slipping through the cracks. Think of it like a routine maintenance schedule for your workplace. You gotta stay on top of it to keep things running smoothly. Audits, on the other hand, are more like those deep dive investigations you see on those crime shows. They're a more comprehensive review of your safety management system, designed to make sure you're meeting all the regulations and standards. It's about taking a hard look at your policies, procedures, and practices to see if they're actually working as intended. Now, here's the thing about inspections and audits. They're not about catching people out or playing gotcha. They're about identifying areas for improvement and working together to create a safer workplace. So, involve your workers in the process, encourage them to report hazards and near misses. Make it a team effort. Remember folks, a safe workplace doesn't happen by accident. It takes constant vigilance, regular checkups, and a commitment to continuous improvement. And that's what inspections and audits are all about. Let's face it folks, accidents happen. Even in the safest workplaces, things can go wrong. But when an incident does occur, it's crucial to treat it as a learning opportunity, a chance to figure out what went wrong and prevent it from happening again. That's where incident investigation comes in. The first thing to remember is that incident investigations aren't about pointing fingers or assigning blame. They're about gathering all the facts, understanding the root cause of what happened, and identifying corrective actions to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. Think of it like putting together a puzzle. You need to gather all the pieces, witness statements, physical evidence, equipment records, training logs to get the full picture. And just like a puzzle, sometimes the most important pieces are the smallest details. So don't overlook anything. Once you've gathered all the information, it's time to analyze the data and identify the root cause of the incident. This isn't always easy, folks. Sometimes the root cause is obvious, but often it's buried beneath layers of contributing factors. You gotta be persistent and ask the tough questions to get to the bottom of it. Remember, the goal of an incident investigation is to prevent future incidents, not place blame. So once you've identified the root cause, develop corrective actions that address the issue at its core. And don't just stop there. Share your findings with the rest of the organization so everyone can learn from the experience. We all hope for the best, but when it comes to workplace safety, you gotta be prepared for the worst. Fires, explosions, natural disasters, these things can happen when you least expect them, and if you're not prepared, the consequences can be catastrophic. That's why having a solid emergency plan is crucial. The first step is to identify potential emergencies that could occur at your workplace. This will vary depending on your industry and location. Are you in a flood zone? Earthquake country? Do you work with hazardous materials? Once you know what you're dealing with, you can start developing procedures for each scenario. Next, you need to establish clear lines of communication. Who's in charge during an emergency? How will you communicate with employees? What about external authorities? Having a communication plan in place can save precious time and prevent confusion during a crisis. Don't forget about training, folks. Your emergency plan is only as good as the people who are trained to execute it. Regular drills and exercises are crucial to ensure that everyone knows their role and can respond effectively in a real emergency. Remember, an emergency plan is a living document. It needs to be reviewed and updated regularly to reflect changes in your workplace, your workforce, and the world around you. Because when it comes to emergencies, being prepared can mean the difference between a close call and a catastrophe. Listen, I get it. Paperwork. The mere mention of it is enough to make most folks run for the hills. But when it comes to safety, those files and folders aren't just bureaucratic busywork, they're a lifeline. They tell the story of your safety efforts, and trust me, you want that story to be clear, concise, and complete. Think of it like keeping a ship's log. Every inspection, every training session, every incident, big or small, needs to be documented. Why? Because these records serve as proof that you're taking safety seriously. They show due diligence, which is a fancy way of saying you're doing your darndest to keep folks safe. And let's not forget about legal reasons. Heaven forbid an accident occurs, those records could be your best defense. They demonstrate that you've identified hazards, implemented controls, and trained your workforce. Without that paper trail, you're leaving yourself vulnerable. But it's not just about protecting yourself. Detailed records also help you track trends, identify areas for improvement, and demonstrate the effectiveness of your safety program. They're like a goldmine of information that can help you make informed decisions about future safety initiatives. So, next time you're tempted to toss that inspection checklist or scribble a training record on a napkin, remember this: proper documentation is the backbone of a solid safety program. It's about accountability, transparency, and ultimately, it's about protecting your most valuable asset, your people. Alright, so you've got your policies, your training programs, your emergency plans, all the bells and whistles of a top-notch safety program. But here's the catch: none of it matters a lick if you're not following the rules. That's where compliance monitoring comes in. Think of it like being a referee in a football game. Your job is to make sure everyone's playing by the rules, that no one's getting away with a cheap shot or an illegal formation. In this case, the rulebook is a combination of local, state, and federal regulations, as well as any internal safety standards you've set for your own workplace. Now, I know what you're thinking: regulations, rules, red tape. Sounds about as exciting as watching grass grow, right? But here's the thing: those regulations are written in blood, sweat, and unfortunately sometimes tears. They're based on lessons learned from past incidents, mistakes that often came at a high cost. So, yeah, compliance is important. Monitoring compliance isn't just about avoiding fines and penalties, though that's certainly a nice perk. It's about creating a culture of safety, where everyone understands that the rules are there for a reason and that following them is non-negotiable. So, how do you monitor compliance? Well, it's a combination of regular inspections, audits, observations, and data analysis. You gotta have your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the workplace. Identify any areas where compliance is slipping and take corrective action before it turns into a bigger problem. You know that old game of telephone where you whisper a message down the line and it comes out completely garbled at the other end? Yeah, that's the last thing you want when it comes to safety reporting. Clear, concise, and accurate reporting is essential to keep everyone in the loop and make sure safety remains a top priority. Think of it like a relay race. You've got all these different players: workers, supervisors, safety officers, management, and the information needs to be passed smoothly and efficiently from one to the next. Any hiccups in communication can lead to delays, misunderstandings, and ultimately compromise safety. So, what needs to be reported? Well, pretty much anything related to safety incidents, near misses, hazards, safety observations, even suggestions for improvement. The key is to make it easy for workers to report anything they see without fear of retribution. And don't just rely on formal reporting channels. Encourage open communication and feedback. Hold regular safety meetings, toolbox talks, or even just informal chats to keep safety top of mind, and encourage everyone to share their observations and concerns. Remember, effective safety reporting isn't about pointing fingers or assigning blame. It's about creating a culture of transparency, where everyone feels comfortable speaking up about safety concerns and where information flows freely throughout the organization. Because when it comes to safety, communication is key. You know what they say: two heads are better than one. Well, when it comes to workplace safety, that's not just a catchy saying, it's a fundamental principle. Because let's face it, no one person has all the answers. Creating a truly safe work environment requires tapping into the collective wisdom of the entire team. Think of it like building a house. You wouldn't expect the electrician to know how to frame the walls, or the plumber to know how to install the roof, would you? Each trade brings its own unique skills and knowledge to the project. Well, the same goes for safety. Workers on the front lines have a different perspective than managers or safety professionals. They're the ones who are elbow deep in the work every day, and they often have valuable insights into potential hazards, workarounds, and solutions that others might overlook. So how do you foster this collaboration? Well, it starts with creating a culture of open communication and respect, where everyone feels comfortable speaking up and sharing their thoughts and ideas. Hold regular safety meetings, toolbox talks, or even just informal chats to encourage dialogue and feedback. Remember, collaboration isn't about telling people what to do. It's about working together to find the best solutions. So, be open to different perspectives, be willing to listen, and be prepared to compromise. Because when it comes to safety, everyone has a role to play. You know that old saying, safety first? Yeah, well, it's a catchy slogan, but let's be honest, it's not exactly the most inspiring rallying cry. If you really want to create a culture of safety, you gotta go beyond the posters and the slogans and find creative ways to engage your workforce and make safety stick. Think of it like marketing. Your goal is to sell safety to your employees, to make it something they believe in and actively participate in, not just something they have to do because it's a rule. So how do you do that? Well, first you gotta make it personal. Connect safety to what matters most to your employees, their families, their hobbies, their well-being. Help them understand that safety isn't just about protecting themselves at work. It's about protecting the things and the people they care about most. Next, mix it up. Don't just rely on the same old safety meetings and training videos. Get creative. Use humor, storytelling, games, even friendly competitions to keep things fresh and engaging. And don't forget to recognize and reward safe behavior. A little positive reinforcement can go a long way. Acknowledge workers who go above and beyond to promote safety, share success stories, and celebrate milestones. Remember, safety promotion isn't a one-time event, it's an ongoing process. You gotta keep the message fresh, keep it relevant, and most importantly, keep it real. Alright folks, here's the thing about safety. It's not a destination, it's a journey. You never really arrive at safety, you're always striving for it. Always looking for ways to improve. That's the essence of continuous improvement. Think of it like climbing a mountain. You're constantly pushing yourself, always looking for the next handhold, the next foothold to reach the summit. But even when you get there, you know there are other mountains to climb, new challenges to conquer. So, how do you foster this culture of continuous improvement? Well, it starts with data. You gotta track your progress, analyze your metrics, and identify areas where you can do better. Are incident rates trending up or down? Are near misses being reported? Are workers engaged in safety initiatives? But data alone isn't enough. You gotta be willing to ask the tough questions. Why did this incident happen? What could we have done differently? How can we prevent it from happening again? And most importantly, you gotta be open to the answers, even if they're not what you want to hear. Remember, continuous improvement isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about creating a culture where everyone is empowered to identify problems, propose solutions, and work together to make the workplace safer day by day. Because when it comes to safety, there's always room for improvement. So there you have it, folks, a crash course in the essential roles and responsibilities of a health and safety officer. We covered a lot of ground, from developing those all-important safety policies to navigating the wild world of compliance and everything in between. And while the job may seem daunting at times, remember this, it's all about protecting people, plain and simple. If you take away just one thing from this video, let it be this. Safety isn't just a job title, it's a shared responsibility. It's about looking out for yourself, looking out for your coworkers, and speaking up when you see something that ain't right. If you found this deep dive into the world of safety helpful, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and share this video with your friends and colleagues. And remember folks, stay safe out there.